Hi, my name is Mary Fetter, and welcome to the presentation. Today I'm going to discuss the ALS trials at Allegheny Health Network, the past, present, and future. I'm a clinical research coordinator at Allegheny Health Network in the Neuroscience Institute. I'm going into my 4th year, and my primary focus is in neurology: ALS, MS, MG, stroke, and Parkinson's. The ALS team currently is comprised of Dr. Rana, Dr. Small, Sydney Stangus, and backup coordinators Mike, Jason, and Trish. Clinical research is a study involving humans to answer specific health questions. Carefully conducted clinical research studies are the safest and most efficient way to find treatments that work in people and to establish new ways to improve healthcare. There are 2 goals of clinical research: to find a treatment that may be better or safer than currently available treatment, to gain knowledge that may benefit others, even though at this time no one can be sure this research treatment will be helpful to you. The phases in clinical trials: there are 4 phases, and it usually takes about 12 years for them to go from preclinical to phase 4 and to have FDA approval. The ones that we currently focus on are phase 2 and phase 3, where the testing of a drug on patients to assess efficacy, effectiveness, safety, or side effects. The past trials that we have been involved in is MNK, which was a multi-center, double-blind, placebo-controlled study to assess the efficacy and safety of Acthar gel in the treatment of subjects with ALS. The Acthar gel, which was a prescription drug approved in the U.S. by the FDA for use in some diseases such as systematic lupus, but it was not approved to treat ALS. This research study used Acthar gel and a placebo. A placebo is an inactive treatment that looks the same as the Acthar and is given the same way as Acthar. The outcomes for this study were not what the sponsor or the drug company had wanted. The Data and Safety Monitoring Board recommended that the trial should be stopped. It was due to the frequency of adverse events, including infections, in the group receiving the active drug statistically significantly exceeds that in the placebo group, while the trial showed no signs of significant efficacy. Another trial was Orion, and this was the effects of levosimendan on respiratory functions in patients with ALS. The purpose of this research study was to measure how safe and effective the medication is in treating subjects with ALS. This was done by measuring the breathing function. The staff would ask questions about their health status, and safety would be followed up by blood tests, a medical exam, and documenting on how much care you need for your ALS. As part of this study, you are also given a placebo. The extended open label for this study, we had 1 patient that continued in this study. And you had to participate in the first part of this study, the Orion, and then the second part was an open label where you could receive the study drug for 3 years or until it was available on the market in the United States. Unfortunately, these results were not what the pharmaceutical company had wanted either. The primary endpoint of the trial was to show a statistically significant difference between the levosimendan and a placebo in the slow vital capacity in a supine position at 12 weeks compared to baseline. An important secondary endpoint was to show statistically significant difference between the medication and placebo in the patient's functionality. the ALS-FRS-R scale. The pre-specified endpoints were not met in this trial, and it was stopped. New safety concerns were identified in this study, and future data on what was achieved in the study will be discussed at a future time. Currently, we're participating in the oral Edaravone study. It's a phase 3 multi-center open-label safety study of the oral Edaravone administered over 48 weeks in subjects with ALS. The purpose of this study is to test if the experimental drug is safe and well tolerated in patients with ALS. In this study, you will receive the oral form of the Edaravone. This oral formulation is considered experimental as it has not been approved by the USDA or the FDA. And forms of the Edaravone have been approved, and that was the IV, and this was approved in 2017. Currently, we have 2 patients enrolled in this trial, and we plan to enroll at least 2 more patients. Future trials that we are looking at and hope to open by September are the Allegheny. It is a phase 3 double-blind randomized placebo-controlled parallel group multi-center study with an open-label extension to evaluate the efficacy and safety of ravulizumab in patients with ALS. This study will look at the investigational drug and its blocking complement activity. The complement system is part of your immune system which fights against infections. In patients with ALS, abnormal complement activity is present, which may cause damage to the structures in the body that are responsible for neuromuscular transmission. The investigational drug is not approved by the FDA. The purpose of the study is to evaluate the safety and efficacy of this drug intravenously in adult patients with ALS. Combat is another study that we're going to open up in September. It is a phase 2B/3 multi-center randomized double-blind placebo-controlled 12-month clinical trial to evaluate the efficacy and safety of MN-166 abutolast, followed by the open-label extension in subjects with ALS. The purpose of the study is to see if this drug can help people with ALS in slowing down the progression of the disease. The study compares the safety, effectiveness, and tolerability of this drug to a placebo. It has been approved in Japan for almost 30 years for the treatment of post-stroke dizziness and asthma. It is not approved by the FDA in the United States, Canada, or Europe. If anybody has questions about what trials are available in the Pittsburgh area or even in other parts of the United States, you can always go on to www.clinicaltrials.gov and put in the information, and it will automatically show you all the trials that have been completed or enrolling at this time. I want to thank you, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.